Housing in session. Honourable member for Christchurch East. Order number 4.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to this debate, and I do it full of hope. One of the biggest issues that we face as a country, as a developing country, is how to house our people. It is not simply a matter of how to house our people. It is a matter of how to house our people in housing that is fit for purpose. One of the greatest complaints that I have in my constituency is for people who are looking for housing. There's a perception in Barbados that people want national housing units so they don't have to pay rent, right? And to be honest, when I was a senator, when I was in the other place, came to my office once and said to me, Mr. Abrams, I really want you to see what you can do to get me into NHC unit because I ain't able to pay rent. So that whole concept seems to be ingrained in the minds of a lot of Barbadians, and it leads us to problems. When people want something for nothing and they get something for nothing, they often don't care for what it is that they've gotten. As a result, a lot of the NHC units and a lot of the NHC developments, they look shabby. They're run down and they look shabby. So there is a stigma among some people in Barbados about low-income housing and living in a housing scheme where it really should not be so. The NHC units should not be seen as the desperation solution for somebody who cannot find a house. The National Housing Corporation is supposed to be providing low-cost solutions to Barbadians who deserve it, who are not able to partake of the high-cost solutions that some of us in here might be able to partake of or to be able to afford. The difficulty comes in, Mr. Speaker, because of how it is perceived. Quite often the units themselves, when they are built, they're not built in such a way as to inspire community living. They're not built in such a way as to inspire pride. So we have perpetuated this cycle of looking upon the NHC units as some form of governmental charity, as opposed to the state providing with an opportunity to get your first chance at housing, to get a start at home. Since being elected on May 24th this year, it seems so long ago, sir, that I get confused with the dates. I say March instead of May, but since being elected, when I have my clinics at my branch office, the biggest approach is for financial assistance, then for a job, and then for housing. And I've canvassed the rest of my colleagues, and across the constituencies it's the same. Over the last 10 years, what we've now called the lost decade, because that is what it was. Barbados lost its way. The government lost its way. The NHC lost its way, the public service lost its way, the transport board lost its way, the BWA lost its way. And that last decade was characterized by the non-functioning of statutory corporations, the collapse of many of the social services, and the failure to make any dent whatsoever into providing housing solutions to people who are most in need. In Christchurch East, there has not been one new government house built, NHC development for I do not know how long. I do not know how long. So I'm excited at the fact that this development is coming, this proposed development is coming to Chancery Lane. Now here comes the caution, sir. When I was in the other place, we did a number of resolutions to vest property in the National Housing Corporation for this, or to vest property in the National Housing Corporation for that. I am not aware of many, if any, coming on stream. So I do not want this to be a case where the NHC receives the land supposedly for housing development and then nothing happens. I know the plot that they're talking about. This plot is on its way to Long Beach. Long Beach is Long Beach is the most beautiful beach in Barbados. It is. It is underutilized. Sir, I'm not hearing the sides, but I think my qualification of, I can say this without a doubt. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Long Beach is one of the most, if not the most beautiful beach in Barbados. It is secluded. The environs of Long Beach are, I would say, underdeveloped. There's lots of land out there. There is a pristine wetland that in the rainy season we get migratory birds. It is beautiful. It makes you think walking through that area that you're somewhere else entirely. You forget that their houses may be half a mile away. You forget that the airport is up the hill. You forget that Oysins is down the road. You think you're in some sort of paradise created by God for the benefit of the people who live in Christchurch East and for those who live in the rest of Barbados to visit. So the fact that this development, or this proposed development, or the area zone for development is close to Long Beach, just under the hill from Ferry Valley, abutting and bounding Chancery Lane, is exciting, because we are not looking to do another housing development in a landlocked area, in an urban community where there are no real amenities. Anybody, a tourist, would love to stay in that area. A Barbadian would love to have the opportunity to purchase some of that land and put a house there. A middle-class person, somebody wanting a recreation facility near the beach. So the fact that we are vesting this land on the edge of Long Beach in the National Housing Corporation for housing development says we are going in the right direction. We need to change the concept of what we envision when we envision national housing developments. We need to put aside the concrete jungle. We need to put aside houses or units stacked on top of each other, where the aim is to cram as many units in as possible without providing amenities or making the place acceptable, somewhere that people really, really want to come home and are excited to come home to live. The fact that we are providing or seeking to provide low-income housing does not necessarily mean we should provide poor services or poor housing. Any housing that the National Housing Corporation constructs from now, and in particular any development that they attempt to undertake in Christchurch East, I beg the Minister of Housing, who I know to be a man who listens and is progressive and forward thinking, I beg him that the housing developments should be as modern as they can be, as the price allows. They should incorporate the newest technology in relation to septic tanks and sewering. When the development is done, it should have underground utilities, no overhead wires to make it climate resilient. When the houses are constructed, consideration must be given to solar or some other form of alternative energy that can power the development and reduce the operational costs to the government or to the unit owners. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about a condo, when somebody says, I have a condo, you automatically think upscale, middle to higher middle to upper income level. When somebody says, I live in a condo, a condominium development, you think swimming pool and tennis courts. You think facilities. But effectively, if we actually look at what a condominium development is, a condominium development is a development where properties are constructed, the utilities and common areas are shared, the persons purchase from the developer who retains some control over the maintenance, and everybody pays a portion to it. But effectively, that should be the model for the National Housing Corporation. Without knowing it, the National Housing Corporation developments are effectively condominium developments. But it's just that the residents don't actually pay towards the shared services. If we take a step and we start to build for low-income housing, what we can see ourselves living in, something we'd want for ourselves and our children, you then get people coming in with a different mindset. If I come into a housing development and there's a basketball court or a road tennis court or a nice green area and a play park with proper equipment, and it is upkept, then the people who live in that development will have a sense of pride attached to where they live, in the same way so that you have a sense of pride attached to where they live. Somebody who brings home their child and their child wants to come home and rush home to play in the play park in front of their house, or to use the swings, or to go on the basketball court, that person is not going to throw garbage in the same area. So simply by us revolutionizing the way we approach low-income housing and the concept of low-income housing, we can provide better, more habitable, more welcoming accommodation that encourages Barbadians, low-income Barbadians, to be house proud and community proud. If we want to stamp out violence in communities, then we have to start to make people once again proud of their communities and want to go home to their communities. If we want to have no littering and have tidy and pretty communities, then we have to make people proud of where they live and encourage them to treat it in the way so that you treat your property. Sir, I embrace the Barbados vision, the Barbadian vision of carbon neutral Barbados by 2030. I embrace the Barbados Labour Party commitment to being carbon neutral by 2030. I just came out of a meeting with the Honourable Prime Minister where we're looking at electric buses. We all know that the government is on the hunt for electric garbage trucks. We know we are moving towards a policy of electric vehicles only, procurement of electric vehicles only going forward for the ministries and the statutory corporations. Barbados, as it stands now, has 390 electric vehicles. We have per capita, we are per capita with electric vehicles in the top 3 in the world. In the world. We have committed as a government, and we are seeking funding and grant funding and project funding as a government based on the fact that we want to become the first carbon neutral Caribbean territory, the first carbon neutral small island developing state by 2030. So everything we do from here has to incorporate that. So when Minister Duguid talks, when the Honourable Member for Christchurch West talks about the Transport Board and needing to get buses, he should necessarily be thinking electric buses, even if he doesn't say, or buses powered by some form of alternative energy. When Minister Humphrey, the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South, talks talks about the blue economy and redeveloping our fishing fleet, he should be talking about solar-powered fishing boats. When the Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Member for St. James Central, when the Honourable Member for St. James Central talks about tourism and redeveloping the airport and expansion of the airport, the top of the airport, all of that roof space should be lined off with electric panels, and thus reducing the electricity bill for the government of Barbados. The government of Barbados spends the greatest drain on the foreign exchange of Barbados is in fuel costs. Is in fuel costs. So it is not just simply that we have to look to using alternative energy. It is that we need to transition our mind from the old way of doing things. It is not just about generating renewable energy. It's about using less energy. It is not just about water efficient toilets and waterborne systems. It's about using less water. So if we start to embrace this vision, and we are committed and we believe it can happen, it needs to happen in every single aspect. Right now we're discussing vesting of land in the National Housing Corporation. So I am urging the Honourable Member for St. Andrew, did I pronounce that right? The Honourable Member for Andrew? I heard it as Andrew. The Honourable Member for St. Andrew, that every single national housing development from here should, as a matter of requirement, whoever is designing it or bidding to build it, one of the design criteria must be energy efficiency. It must be energy efficiency. I would feel great, Mr. Speaker, to see a small windmill on top of a National Housing Corporation building. I would feel great to look from above and not see any galvanized, because all the galvanizable area is covered in solar panels. I would love to see on the side of the buildings those Tesla battery packs for storing the energy during the day and releasing the energy at night. I would love to see, when the tender goes out, that the Honourable Member for St. Andrew insists that every single unit must have energy efficient toilets and shut off taps in the bathrooms. How many of us turn on our taps, Mr. Speaker, to brush our teeth, and we leave the tap running the whole time we brush our teeth? How many of us go in the shower, for those of us who have water? How many of us go in the shower and we turn on the shower and we get wet and we start the soap? We don't turn off the water. We step away from the water, soap, leaving the water running, and then step back under the water. We have become a wasteful society. The cost of water in Barbados is cheap. It is cheap, Mr. Speaker, so we waste it. When we had the fixed water bills, where I can't remember what the bill used to be, but it used to be a fixed amount for every household per month. When people had leaks, they didn't try to fix them. You had a tap in your yard that is locked off, the pipe broke off and is running. You didn't try to fix it because it didn't affect your water bill. A lot of us complain about our electricity bill, but how many of us turn off the lights when we leave the room? How many of us have the systems where the lights outside your house can shut off when the sun comes up? It is all of these things that we need to be thinking about to carry Barbados through, to see our vision of a carbon neutral Barbados by 2030. And it has to start with the NHC. I am hoping, I have heard the Honourable Member for St. Andrews saying how disgusted he was with what went on in the last administration. I have heard him saying that Barbados needs new housing stock. We have heard the cries of all the members in here who have suffered in their constituencies, or who have had people suffer because houses burned down. A lot of house fires over the last couple of weeks, and there's nowhere to put them because the NHC has no housing stock. The NHC has not fulfilled its mandate to the government and the people of Barbados over the last 10 years. The Honourable Member for St. Andrew has said over and over, he plans to take the NHC and turn it around. The NHC needs to start functioning in the way it was intended, or heads going roll. That is his quote. I know him, Mr. Speaker, as a man who does what he says. So I am asking him to hear me now and my plea for the people of Christchurch East. Let not this land acquisition or the vesting of this land in the NHC be simply a paper transaction. Let it be the paper transaction that is leading swiftly to tenders and designs and construction. And I'm asking this as well. We need to look, there needs to be some transparency in how the NHC awards houses to people. I know the NHC is overburdened by applications for housing. And I know as a fact that the distribution of housing has not always been equitable and has been nothing in the last 10 years closely related to transparent. But if I may make this humble suggestion, if you construct housing in Christchurch, let the people who come from Christchurch have first call on that housing. If you construct housing in St. Thomas or St. Peter or St. Andrew, let the people from St. Thomas or St. Peter or St. Andrew have the first call. Because what happens, sir? What happens? If we look at it, people grow up in an area. When you move away from that area and you go and live somewhere else, you're supposed to change your voter registration. But I left Christchurch years ago and I moved to St. Michael. But my family is in Christchurch. So I continue every election to trek back down to Christchurch to vote because that is where I came from. That's where the most of my roots are. And that happens across the length and breadth of Barbados. Most people who come up in a house, you come up in the same housing unit, and they may initially have been mommy and daddy. There's no mommy and daddy and 4. And 2 of those 4 may have children. So it's mommy and daddy and 4 plus 4. So you may have 10 people in a unit. Those who are eligible want to find housing for themselves and allow a start for their family. And they want the option of a starter home from the NHC. Some of them want to rent it, some of them want to buy it. But invariably they don't want to leave where they came from and go somewhere else. So
5 more minutes, please.
Already, sir? So the point, sir, is rather we need to look at the way we construct the developments and start to put developments into all of the constituencies. There's not one constituency in Barbados that cannot benefit from better housing. There is not one constituency in Barbados that is not crying out for housing that is affordable to low-income earners. I'm not saying cheap housing. I'm saying this is where the government flexes its muscle and uses the concept of bulk purchase. If I'm giving you as a contractor not one house to build, but 30 or 40 or 50 units, then your price per unit has to come down. So the quality need not come down, but the price must come down. The people who purchase national housing units should be entitled to have proper finishes in their house, proper amenities in their development, proper renewable energy considerations, proper sewage solutions. It is for the Minister for St. Andrew and those who work in the national housing to figure out how to get it done. But we need to get to the point where low-income housing is not seen as desperation, but is seen as what it is supposed to be. It is seen as the government providing a start or an advantage for people who otherwise could not afford it, but who deserve it and who intend to be house owners. The other thing as well, sir, the National Housing Corporation, under the new government, under our new way of thinking, we need to ensure that we're not taken for a ride by unscrupulous contractors. It cannot be the case that national housing units are constructed at the same cost per square foot as houses on the West Coast. It cannot happen anymore. We need to do what is right by the people of Barbados. As I said, I am excited at the fact that this acquisition is in Christchurch East. I am excited at the possibility that people from Ferry Valley, people from Sears Court, people from Parish Lands, Silver Sands might be able to benefit from this same housing development. I will be even more excited when the electric buses come on stream and we get proper bus service to the same Ferry Valley and the same Chancery Lane. I live in hope, Mr. Speaker, but I can say that this is a good start. There's many a slip between cup and lip, but I hope that this paper transaction finds its way into a manifested housing development that can serve the people of Barbados and the people of Christchurch East. I thank you.
Thank you. Member for St. Andrew.
Somebody got postponed. Somebody have to postpone. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution consideration will be postponed.
That's all. Somebody seconded.
Yeah. Not choosing next week.
Question is that this bill be postponed, resolution be postponed for further consideration. Seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Next thing. Mr. Deputy Speaker, when this matter was first mentioned, we didn't mention the NAS one specifically. We have received written instructions that the information that was actually included in the Senate bill was correct, and therefore the Chamber is asked to disagree and to send the matter back to the Senate for their only in respect of this particular clause, sir.
And that we agree with the other two?
We're not changing the other two, only in respect of the NAS.
The NAS. Seconded?
Seconded by John.
This by
James back.
Pedro. What put the question on?
Put the question that we amend the resolution to pass. That we amended the resolution to agree with the amendments made to the debt restructuring and the road traffic, but disagree with the one made to the NAS. We're agreeing to the amendments made to the debt restructuring and the road traffic, but disagreeing with those made to the NAS.
No, we done, man. More talking this evening straight up.
And the debt restructuring, but disagreeing with the amendments made to it.
The question is that we agree to the amendment of the debt restructuring and the road traffic, but we are disagreeing with those made to the INS amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker,
Deputy Speaker.
this brings us to the end of government business for the day. I beg to move that this House be now adjourned until Tuesday, the 6th of November, 2018 at 10 o'clock.
I second that, please. The question is that this House be adjourned until Tuesday, the 6th of November at 10 o'clock in the morning. All those members in favor say aye. Those against say no. We think the ayes have it. This House is now adjourned until Tuesday, the 6th of November at 10 o'clock in the morning.
It's 3 o'clock, man. We didn't supposed to be here all this time.
Because the people that went in for quite short.
Too much people talk all morning.
Yes. And they put them up, should have myself the police force and to jump upon each other. You say